my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious
It has begun!
The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
It's time for the week's latest news in tech, gaming, movies, TV, and all things geeky. Welcome to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. How has everybody been doing? I know I promised you guys 1 week, and then all of a sudden we had a second week, and I don't know what happened. Okay, so yeah, the bottom line is I apologize for last week, but unfortunately we had a complication where I didn't even know it, but apparently I had strep throat. So obviously couldn't come in because I would infect everybody and start the next zombie plague or whatever. So unfortunately, I do apologize for nothing happening last week, but we are here now. We are in the present. We are being joined by Aldo Gomez from The Globe. How are you doing, Aldo?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm not muted, am I? Okay.
No. We're not having a raccoon moment.
All right. Yeah. No, I'm good.
How was your spring break, Aldo?
Uneventful as far as like spring breaks go. I mean, I don't go to Cancun or anything like that. I just mostly.
What is wrong with you?
What type of human being am I? No, I just I spent it mostly working. Day job and some articles and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. So and were you able to play any really good games during the spring break to kind of catch yourself up on the reviews or anything like that?
Not in the least as far as catching up with anything. No, I actually jumped back into my Fire Emblem Awakening. I loved Bravely Default so much that like after I finished it, I just kind of wanted to go back into that 3DS RPG, and I remember Fire Emblem Awakening. I loved it so much, so I went back to it and playing it, and now I'm playing this horrible person that matches people up so their offspring can have the perfect abilities. And I'm such a horrible human being.
Okay, all right. Well, that's one way to play the game. I mean, Fire Emblem Awakening, that's one way to play the game. All right, yeah, and my spring break was kind of interesting in the fact that I actually spent a lot of time catching up. So I think we actually talked about it over one of the episodes, but I actually finally finished Assassin's Creed 3. And I can see why you didn't like it so much.
Yeah.
It was very meh. The best game that I was actually able to play over spring break was I decided to take on two games. My wife, for the longest time, I had like an unwrapped or a completely wrapped package of Tomb Raider, the remake.
Yeah.
And I hadn't touched it yet. And my wife just looked at it and went, "What's that?" I'm like, "Well, that's Tomb Raider. And it's one of the games that's on my list." She's like, "Let's go play it." I like it. And so literally for spring break, and then she got an extra week of work off after, we just grinded our way through Tomb Raider. So loved that game. That was deserving of a Game of the Year edition. It was awesome. And then the other one I played was I got a little bit more hardcore into the new reboot of Strider. And that is a game, guys, you need to play. That is absolutely awesome. The Metroidvania style totally fits with it. I can't recommend it more wholeheartedly, especially since it's a $15 title. But that's beside the point. You guys came here for some geek news and reviews and maybe some opinions. I don't know.
Maybe.
But let's go ahead and go into the stories before we start talking about them. First of all, there actually isn't a whole lot of news right now. It's March, and in April it's going to slow down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Summer's where it's going to pick up because that's when we got all the big conventions. We may have a little pickup. I think in April the PAXs will start happening.
PAX and EVO should be coming up soon, I think.
Yes, so at that point we'll start seeing more from the other companies just kind of showing off their strategy, so to speak. But here's the story. The stories that we have this week are actually kind of interesting. First of all, this actually happened a couple of weeks ago, but I'm catching up. Veteran Castlevania producer of Konami, Koji Igarashi, is leaving Konami, and he is going to go and pursue his own company. He's said basically that he just wants to pursue a new title. He's been working on Castlevania for many years. And, that's entirely cool. He's working hard. But also that he did this is an additional thing that happened this week. He's displaying an interest for going to Nintendo and offering to do a Metroid game, which I thought was interesting because he's literally coined the term Metroidvania at this point. So that's one story that we've got. The second story that we have is obviously Sony's response to the Oculus Rift. They unveiled the Morpheus. I'm sorry, I laugh at the title every time I hear it. Their headset, basically. Yes, I know that recently Facebook has basically taken on Oculus Rift. There isn't a whole lot of detail as to their alliance just yet, so we may actually cover that next week, but we got the Sony Morpheus.
I think the only thing that's been confirmed is that every time you boot it up, somebody offers you a red or a blue pill.
And it's always Lawrence Fishburne.
It's always Lawrence Fishburne.
See, he's getting paid right now. He's getting paid. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the headset Morpheus. I'm sorry, I'm never going to get tired of saying that one. And then also, a leaving Xbox executive is basically telling us that the best is yet to come for Xbox One. As we heard from Mark Whitten, who is leaving the company. I find it interesting, like everybody's leaving the company here and there, and we're actually probably going to be discussing that today. But he's basically saying that we haven't seen the full potential of what the Xbox One has in store for us this year. Yeah. So in order to obviously build up hype so that people will be interested in the Xbox One more than the PS4 and more than any other competition. So those are going to be the stories for the hour, but unfortunately we do need to take a quick break. So when we get back, we're going to start discussing these stories one at a time. In the meantime, stay tuned for more geek news, reviews, and opinions. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. And we are back with, let's just go ahead and start discussing the stories of the week, Aldo. First of all, we have Koji Igarashi. All right, so the guy has been working for Konami for quite a while. In fact, he's probably, I almost want to say, has reached Hideo Kojima status within the company because he took Castlevania, and while they were messing around with the 3D games, at least kind of kept a solid handheld bringing here.
Yeah.
And in fact, like we said before, he kind of coined. Pardon my. I can't apparently talk today. He apparently coined the term Metroidvania or Castleroid or whatever you want to call it because of Symphony of the Night.
Right.
And that format just continued on in the Game Boy Advance, and he's gained major success from that while they were still messing around with the 3D titles, and then eventually Mercury Steam took that on and did Lords of Shadow. Yeah. So right now, the reason that he is saying that he wants to break out on his own is to have the freedom to make the kind of games that he really wants to make. This is a quote from him in the article from Polygon. The same kind I think fans from my past games want as well. Leaving Konami was a big decision and not one I took lightly. I spent my entire career there, made many friends, and had a lot of great opportunities, but I hope all the gamers and fans who've supported me in the past will join me in being excited about what comes next. Wish me luck. Here's the interesting part about this. When we think of the Japanese developers, they've actually had a lot of shaking the rug, so to speak, because Hideo went off and did his own studio, so that he could do whatever he wanted with... And here's the thing, Konami would pay for it. Yeah. Because it's Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear makes them a lot of money. Then we eventually had Keiichi Inafune leave Capcom because he was sick and tired of them them not doing anything with Capcom. They were more interested at that time in doing more Resident Evil games, more Devil May Cry games. Zombies and Demons was kind of the thing they wanted. So he went off to go do Mighty No. 9. Now we're having Koji Igarashi, who brought Castlevania kind of out of nowhere, and now he wants to go do his own thing. And in fact, like I said after, is that he has talked about going to Nintendo and doing a Metroid game for them. And I found that the most interesting concept. He wants to do a Metroid game, yet the Metroidvania concept of Symphony of the Night, to my knowledge, was never inspired by Metroid. At least not in Igarashi's eyes. Mm-hmm. So what do we think this does for the industry, Aldo? Does him going off to make his own studio is a bad thing, a good thing?
No, I actually think this is a very good thing because one of the problems is that a lot of these Japanese, directors, I guess you could call them more, I would say directors or producers, I guess, either or. Is the problem the fact that they come out with a good game, they keep coming out with good game after game, all part of the same franchise, and they kind of get stuck in that role. So I mean, Kojima pretty much. I mean, apart from the fact that I don't think he wants to, he doesn't. He never does anything apart from Metal Gear. Inafune, quite the opposite. All he wants to do is kind of keep pushing his franchise further, and Capcom won't let him. And I think
it's not just the one, because the only other project that I'm aware of that he was working on at Capcom was the Onimusha franchise.
Oh yeah,
he was trying to play pool with them or join their fun, and they threw that series out the window too.
Yeah. Last I remember that was on PS2. I think was the last Onimusha.
Yeah, all the games were on PS2, and the third one is probably the one that did the most because they got Jean Reno to come in and do it, and they did this whole huge opening cinematic for it that went everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was totally Inafune that did that, and he got virtually no credit for it. Granted, Onimusha did not do as well as, say, some of the other Capcom games that were coming out at the time. So maybe what might have helped that was maybe if Onimusha had not just done one Xbox release, they should have done multiple ones. And
I think kind of the same thing with him is that I think more than anything, I think he's kind of almost worried about what he's going to do now because now that they've given was it Mercury Steam, they gave them Lords of Shadow, they gave them the Castlevania franchise. What's kind of there for him to do? Apart from reboot or go back into his continuity of the franchise or whatever. So I think him kind of stepping out, doing his own thing is really cool. I do think it's interesting that the first thing he wants or he's offering to do is another
Metroid title.
Metroid title.
Well, he said he also says he has something in the works. He has something already as an idea. He's just offering because he wants to do a Metroid game.
I imagine it's also, working with Nintendo, I'm pretty sure that sets up a good amount of funds.
Working with Nintendo, and then I also know that, because I read a few years ago in an article, Koji Igarashi had a huge respect for Gunpei Yokoi, who made the original Metroid game and made the Game Boy, and rest in peace. I mean, he did really, really well with that franchise until he sadly passed away. But Koji was a big fan of his, so he wanted to take this on. And then you also brought up Kojima. Kojima is only able to take the freedom that he wants because, I mean, is Konami really going to tell him no?
Yeah.
Because then he'll say, I'm not making a Metal Gear game, and they're going to go, oh crap, we're going to lose out on this money.
I think the biggest difference was with Konami telling him, you got to cut down the cutscenes. I think that was probably the biggest problem he had. Because even Snake Eater did not have nearly as many cutscenes or as much like screen time, I guess, as Metal Gear Solid 4.
and then he sent that huge middle finger to them with Guns of the Patriots. He said, "I'll do as many cutscenes as I want because this is Hideo Kojima Productions." Now.
Yeah, and it was pretty much you played for 15 minutes and you saw a half-hour long movie.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing: I never finished Guns of the Patriots just because you could literally watch that thing on YouTube as a movie.
Yeah,
it was that long as far as cutscenes were concerned, and you also see Kojima stepping out of that and flexing his muscle with Revengeance when he did that, or with Rising. There's also
that
talk.
Wasn't him though. That actually.
No, but he wanted to be able to do that and do a game solely for Raiden. I've also heard talk through the pipeline that he's bringing back Snatcher. Yeah. Which is kind of his other baby, He wanted to bring back Zone of the Enders, but the collection was so bad that there's just no reception for it at all.
Yeah, and I think Konami or whoever published that, I think, is holding on to the rights for it.
Mm-hmm. So the real question here is Igarashi going to be successful with this, or is he maybe, because the other developer we didn't bring up because mainly he wasn't as successful at it was Hironobu Sakaguchi, who developed Final Fantasy for Square. He went off to go do Mistwalker, and Mistwalker didn't really get a whole lot of success.
Not really.
So,
but I think he'll do good. But I think just like Inafune, they're going to be playing off of the nostalgia card a little bit. They're going to be taking us to the games that we remember them by.
Yeah.
And the only problem I see is that I don't see a problem with them launching that. I just don't know how long they can keep developing off of that idea.
Neither do I. Koji has some great ideas, but eventually the Metroidvania vein, so to speak, is going to get old. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that the new Strider is a Metroidvania-esque title, but we've already seen a couple of points where they didn't do as well. The one that comes to my mind was the I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It was the Xbox Live title, and you could play as all of the Game Boy Advance, all the Game Boy Advance characters, Alucard from Symphony of the Night, and you were put into a multiplayer to beat the boss first. I think it may have been called Harmony of Despair, but I might be wrong.
Huh.
But that was the one time where Igarashi kind of failed.
Yeah.
Aside from the PS2 games not doing as well as we were hoping.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, too. I also think that when Mercury Steam did well with Lords of Shadow, I have seen things down the pipeline. Igarashi was not happy about that because that meant, he kind of outlived his usefulness. He kept Castlevania alive, and now Mercury Steam is doing something with it.
Yeah.
So now he wants to do something else. And that's also something I think a lot of developers face is, you've done things for so long. Inafune did Mega Man for so long. How can you step out of that after so many years of doing the exact same thing over and over? So this will be interesting for him. I await to see what he's going to do with it because I have played all those Castlevania games, and I think he's been a great addition to Konami. Let's go ahead and talk about the Morpheus. Are you ready to dip into the Matrix?
The more I look at it, I feel like it looks like part of a Daft Punk helmet. But
the part that makes me laugh though is if you look at it with the charger on it, it looks like one of those little balancing eagle toys.
Oh, okay,
really?
yeah.
It looks so weird, and I don't get why the medium is going to this direction this quickly.
And I think it's because the Oculus Rift kind of caught everybody by surprise with how well it could be adapted to existing games. That just the idea of making games specifically for it is very enticing. We've been playing with virtual reality for a while. Military training uses virtual reality, and there's a while back when they made a VR room, which was like a maybe 3 foot by 3
Yes,
foot
it was
room.
the military equivalent of the holodeck.
Yeah, exactly. So I think everybody's just really interested, and I think Sony is being smart about it in that they've seen that the Oculus Rift, kind of caught everybody by storm, that they're jumping into the game early.
Yeah.
Kind of like Nintendo when I imagine they must have noticed some sort of motion trend before they made the Wii.
Yes.
And they solidified their place in that. I mean, if you saw, the Kinect couldn't really compete with it. Sony's Move really couldn't compete with it.
No, but here's the thing too: is that they really weren't considering the motion controls. There's some hinting that Microsoft was, but they didn't want to do what the norm was at that time.
Yeah.
And they made the Kinect. But the part that concerns me with this is that you're right. Oculus Rift is getting a lot of hype right now. But the way that I've actually heard is, yes, it can adapt some mainstream games. It doesn't adapt them very well.
Yeah.
It still has its own bugs. It's still in a very buggy stage. And so at that point, I would think it would be almost a wiser move for Sony to just say, look, maybe we should just step back for a second, see if Oculus Rift is going to do well, and then do our own VR headset.
Yeah, but the only thing is, at that point, it might be too late.
It could be.
It really might be too late, because at that point, Oculus Rift might the same way that Nintendo overtook the handheld platform and nobody could get in for years.
Yeah.
Is
you got a point
what
there.
they're kind of afraid of happening. So they're trying to get their foot in early. Even if it's not a very good foot, they got some footing in there already.
Because right now, I know Oculus Rift's basic programs, its basic tutorial programs, work perfectly on it. It's just when they tried to integrate, I'm trying to think of the games that have been integrated. Like Call of Duty Ghosts, I think, got integrated.
I think so.
They just have these buggy moments because they haven't had a whole lot of time to work that out and see how the Oculus Rift would change.
And I've seen some people hack or mod their games. So I've seen Skyrim play on the Oculus Rift, Pokemon 3D, which is a computer hack of Gen 4 games.
Yeah.
Working on the Oculus Rift. So I mean, it just does require a little tinkering, but all the Oculus Rift support itself kind of tends to work a little bit better, I guess. Depends on a case by case type of thing.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. I don't know if you should focus on the Morpheus right off the top of your head. At this point, I think the biggest focus that Sony has right now is getting games out for the PS4 that people care about and getting them to buy the console, because if they you could advertise the headset all you want, but if they don't have the console. And
I think at the end of the day, it's more of a thing of letting people know that we have this thing and we realize it's not consumer friendly, but we're working on it so that when it does become consumer friendly, it'll work with the console that you have, type of thing.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way I hopefully view it.
All right, and we actually need to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll discuss the comments by Mark Whitten about Xbox One only just beginning, and then we will also be discussing probably the reviews that you might have going up for the Globe, as well as a discussion topic that I do have that I think is kind of relevant over the last couple of weeks. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as more geek news, reviews, and opinions come your way. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. And let's go ahead and get into this last story of the week, which was Mark Whitten. While he was leaving, I love this, while he was leaving the company, decided to say that its Xbox One is just beginning. To get the actual quote here from IGN, part of what's awesome to me right now is I think you're starting to see what Xbox One can become. So much for us was around... hey, let's build this architecture so that we could develop it quickly, that we could add to it, that was flexible, that would allow us to do more things and do more things quickly. It's a great time for Xbox, and it's just beginning.
Yes.
The sun is rising on the Xbox, and their various alliances and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Aldo, what do you think? I mean, we hear hype like this all the time with new consoles.
What I find interesting is that he's hyping it as he's leaving the company, which actually, to me, actually indicates really good things. Because usually when somebody leaves the company, they either diss the company and get in a giant legal problem over slander, or they just don't say anything. So for him to kind of praise it, kind of, piques my interest a little bit.
A little bit.
But overall, I'm really not gonna. I didn't. Microsoft didn't win me over with the 360. I don't think they're going to win me over personally with a 1.
Sacrilege! No, I'm kidding. Yeah, my opinion is kind of the same thing. It's, you get used to this when new consoles come out, is you get a bunch of hype from the executives because they want you to buy the console.
Yeah.
And I've looked at the game lineup for the Xbox One. I'm not interested in the media stuff. Guys, and I'll point this out again. I am not interested in it because the 360 can do it. I don't think it does it very well. And the PS3 can do it, and I think does it well. So at that point, the media machine stuff is not enough to buy me. It's going to be the game libraries that do it. And so, granted, I have maybe 2 games that I want to get for Xbox One. Is that enough to put down $500? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I'm not putting down $500 for Titanfall or Killer Instinct.
And oh my God. How did you know?
What?
Aldo, you read. Stay out of my mind. Stay out of my mind.
Oh.
I told you, man. We totally did not reveal his mutant powers. Anyway, so yes, there's only 2 games that I'm interested in for the Xbox One that's not worth a $500 price tag. Here's an idea, Microsoft. Actually start advertising some games coming out. And, here's the thing. I know that you've got to appease the shooter crowd because the Xbox One is going to be, the successor to the 360, and shooters were fairly prevalent on it. Yeah. So that's all well and good. Get those out there so that you have your audience back. But I also want to see some new games, say from like BioWare, or because we already know the 3rd Dragon Age is not coming out for the Xbox One. No. It's coming out for the 360. So at that point, what's BioWare working on for the Xbox One? What is what is Bungie working on for the Xbox One? We already know Destiny's coming out for the PS4 as well. Yeah. So what are these companies working on? Maybe, and I get it. You're also trying to set things up for E3. You're trying to set things up for E3, CES, Tokyo Game Show to point out all this stuff. That's all well and good, but having your dev or your executive leave to just say it's just beginning doesn't tell me anything about the console.
What that tells me is I can still hold off in a couple more years before I should really think about investing money into it.
Exactly. Wait till the price drops, basically. So yeah, that's gonna be covering the news for the week, at least in the tech hour. Aldo, now last time when we. Wow, it seems like so long ago. But you were talking about Lords of Shadow 2. I'm actually curious. Did you finish it? Did you like what you saw later on?
I didn't finish it. I did enjoy it. My only problem is the same problem I have with games like this, like Devil May Cry and like God of War, where as much as I love the games, I just get so tired of the combat. I really do. And the combat's really fun. It'll keep me engaged for maybe about 12 hours or so, and then I'm out. Then
you're done.
Yeah, then I move on.
Okay.
And that's the problem I have with almost every genre.
Yes.
I mean, I can only play one Zelda game at a time. I can't play two of them.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny you brought that up because I'm just barely trying to finish up Skyward Sword myself. Yeah, that's right. I haven't played it all the way through yet. And I'll tell you, the gameplay in that, I can only stand about an hour of it. I really wish they could have given me a controller with it. I really do.
I'm really bothered by the fact that I will raise my sword to do the skyward thing, and like it'll get all shaky, and I have to wait like 2 whole minutes before it stabilizes.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
Anyway, so right now I'm working on a review, 2 reviews actually. Pokemon Battle Trose, and another game that should have been a downloadable title, Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes.
Okay. Now Trose, that's a series that's come in and out. I actually don't know the premise of it. Is it like a Tetris thing? Or?
It's kind of like a Tetris thing. The original Trose on the DS had little Pokemon that would fall, and you have to slide the rows up and down and left and right to connect 4 before they would disappear.
Yeah.
In this one, you don't have to slide any rows. You can just grab each individual piece and move them to where you need them. Almost not even like Bedazzled. It gives you a little bit more freedom than that. So I can literally grab one piece from one side of the board and just drag it all the way across to make 4, and then a Trose is when you connect 4 and you connect 3, another 3 as part of a combo, and then you just need to connect 2 at that point.
It sounds a lot to me like there was an N64 game I picked up, like when I was feeling sick, just because I kind of came to
Puzzle League?
Like Puzzle League, because I came to Pokemon late, so. Puzzle League was one of those games, since I love puzzle games, worked. That's what it kind of sounds like to me, though.
The cool aspect about this one is the fact that it's Battle Trose, so you're fighting Pokemon. So you have like the main Pokemon that you're fighting that's at the top screen. And so when you make your combos, you have to choose which Pokemon you're gonna combo first. So if you say you have like a Squirtle up at the top, that you're fighting a Squirtle.
Sure.
Instead of connecting 4 Charmanders, you want to connect 4 Bulbasaurs because they have that type advantage. So you connect 4, and
so it plays into the game.
And then everything that you do, every part of the combo that you do, just adds on to his like damage counter, so it multiplies it by 2.
So what you're saying is you would be going for like Bulbasaurs and Pikachus because those actually work against water types.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually very inventive.
Yeah. So it's really cool. It was a lot nicer on the DS because there wasn't nearly as many Pokemon, and that's one of the big claims that they're saying is that this Battle Trose has every Pokemon to date, which is over 700.
Wow!
So when you start getting into like the second half of the generations of Pokemon, even this trips me up where I'll be like, well, this Pokemon is it's a Ghost type, right? Because it's purple. Nope, it's a Fighting type. And that kind of throws me off. See. So even me, with my near encyclopedic information of Pokemon, still have trouble with this.
Yeah, okay. So that's Battle Trose. I'm actually kind of eager to see what you think of Ground Zeroes too. And Kiefer Sutherland is Snake.
It's actually the best disappointment I've ever had to put up with.
Okay, no. Let's say that again. The best disappointment you've had to put up with.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
In the long term, it really should have been a downloadable title. It is not worth like the full price tag. It is one mission. That is what you're paying for. That is what Ground Zeroes is. Is one big mission with like 4 different objectives.
That's weird because I know that they had 2 games coming out. They had Ground Zeroes and then I can't remember the other one.
The Phantom Pain.
The Phantom Pain. And Ground Zeroes, at least for a while, was considered the main game. And the other one was the side story. So it sounds to me like they flipped it.
Yeah, so Ground Zeroes turns out it's kind of this prequel. It serves more as more than a prequel. What it does, it introduces and eases you into the new Metal Gear system from the way you navigate, from the way you do missions, because it's no longer linear. Because as much freedom as Metal Gear Solid gave you, it wasn't that much. You had to get from point A to point B, and there were only like 2 or 3 routes you could do, and you kind of chose what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, it puts you at one corner of the map, and it says, here are 4 things you have to do.
Okay.
do them in any way, in any order that you want, that type of thing. And it kind of eases you into the new controls, which are a little closer to standard FPS controls. Mm-hmm. Enemy AI is a lot better this time around. It kind of reminds me of the leap forward made by like Chaos Theory from Splinter Cell.
Okay.
You remember back then, everything was kind of on a linear path, and then came out, Chaos Theory, where all of a sudden everybody was reacting to like if a light went out and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So this kind of makes that move forward where people no longer just, oh, something's weird? Oh, okay, whatever.
So is it just a shooter, or do you still have kind of the CQC elements? Or
no, you still have everything that makes it Metal Gear. So you still have that CQC, you still have a lot of the stealth elements. One of the new elements I like is actually when you get noticed, it goes into slow-mo for like a couple seconds. So they do the little ring with a little exclamation point.
Yes.
And everything slows down so you can actually... You have like a couple seconds to actually kill the person that just saw you, or to escape, or
they scream.
Yeah, or analyze the whole situation in those couple moments of slow motion. And so actually that's really cool.
Okay.
The sad thing is, like I said, it's just this one mission on this one map, where it's kind of on this island jail prison thing. And I've seen people beat the game in as short as like 8 minutes.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
That personally took me about 2.5 hours.
Okay, I'm just curious at this point. You've seen people beat it in 8 minutes. How much does it cost?
I think it's a full price. I think it's almost like $50.
That is absurd.
That's part of the reason why I said it should have been a downloadable title.
It should have been, yeah. For what you're telling me.
Yeah,
like the Phantom Pain should be the full $60 title, and this should be the $8 DLC or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of this, like I said, it plays well, it looks well, it is just a really swell game. If this is what Phantom Pain is going to be, I'm excited for it. But it is a disappointment that it costs so much, it offers so little. It's just such a small package for what you're paying. Yeah. And like I said, it took me 2.5 hours to play. I'm not the greatest stealth or Metal Gear player. I'm dedicated. I'll give myself that much. But if I can beat it in 2.5 hours,
that's a real disappointment. Yeah. Especially since, I mean, even like we just made the joke of they are movies in and of itself, but you still had a solid 30 hours of gameplay in them. The fact that there's 2.5 hours of gameplay, that's really disappointing to me.
And there's minimal storyline too, which you would think, serving as a prologue.
That's actually the part that I was interested in. So we know that Kiefer Sutherland is playing Snake now.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be the current Solid Snake that we've been dealing with for so long, or is this another big boss tale?
I believe so. I think it is. I think it is him. He doesn't speak that much. There's not that many cutscenes. There's a couple instances where you can do the whole radio thing and all that stuff. I mean, you can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I never felt the need to, as I had to, and I'm always going to refer to it to Snake Eater. Snake Eater had parts where I had to go on that radio like 17 times to figure out what I should do before I died again.
Yeah, especially since some of those fights you had to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, not so much. This was kind of your standard. Here are your goals and achieve them as you want type of thing. So it almost felt like a really well polished tech demo for the next.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing. Okay, well, so that sounds to me like kind of your review of Ground Zeroes. I'm actually a little bit curious, though, since this week we had the expansion for Diablo hit. Did you pick that up at all?
No, I'm not a Diablo player.
Okay. Yep. Maybe I'll have to go pick that up and bring that to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I haven't been able to do that either, but that's just because I've been... Strider has taken a piece of my soul right now. It is so addictive. But in the meantime, we got to take our last break for the hour. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the topic of the week, just to give you guys kind of a sneak peek. It's been interesting the last couple of months. We've had a lot of developers and presidents and people leaving the big three companies, and so we'll be discussing whether or not that hurts their strategy, what they're planning for E3 and beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we come back for more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. All right, let's go ahead and get into the topic this week. Just because I want to get into this, because I don't know about you, Aldo, but like when we started up this year, we had the Xbox president leaving. We've now had the Sony president leave. There's still rumors that Iwata-san is going to leave Nintendo as president because of the way that all because of how the new consoles dealt.
Yeah.
So we've had all that happen. Then we've had numerous developers say, "Oh, we're leaving, but you've only seen the beginning of what this console has to achieve." And I gotta say, Aldo, it makes me look to the future of these consoles and look kind of bleak. Like, we're constantly hearing that these consoles are the best thing ever, and we know the ultimate potential, and you'll see it in 6 months or whatever. Okay, but what does that say for E3 this year? What does that say for Tokyo Game Show? When you do have to actually show what this stuff is.
Right.
And the other thing that also kind of has me concerned on the Microsoft end is now they're talking again about bringing back all the crap policies that everybody hated. They're talking about bringing in the sharing system for their games again, and it's just like what on earth are they doing here? I have no idea. It sounds to me like they are making this worse for themselves, and in reality, they should just show a good library, learn from the mistakes that they had in the past year, especially Microsoft. Don't bring back the console needs beyond 24/7 or any of those stupid features.
I actually would disagree with you a little bit on that because a lot of the features that they're talking about, the 24/7, is actually, in my opinion, a merger of that digital only age that we're rapidly approaching, and it's more along the lines of what Steam offers because nobody ever complains that Steam needs to be on 24/7 type thing. Which it doesn't. Which it doesn't. I mean, you can play a lot of Steam with your computer off, with your internet off.
Oh, and you can turn Steam off. I mean, I've done that numerous times.
Yeah, exactly. But it is one of those things where a lot of people get scared because a lot of people are not PC players. Which, and the people that weren't angry about it were PC players or people that are like, oh, you people are whining about this? This is what we deal with every day.
Yeah, I think the problem that a lot of people had with Xbox was when they announced these features, and then people asked, okay, well, what if we want to do this, and what if we want to do this? And their solution was be a douchebag in front of everybody, pardon my French. But, the perfect example was a lot of people had concerns about the internet connection.
Yeah.
To the people who can't afford internet, and that thing required an internet connection to work. So they basically bounced back and said, well, we have a solution for you too. It's called the Xbox 360. Yeah. Well, a lot of people took that as, oh, well, but I want to be the cool happen in person, and you're telling me that the Xbox One won't let me do that. Right. Kind of thing, because it's just going to be like this $500 hunk of hardware I can't use.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that is the part where I start agreeing with you as far as those policies. Those are bad, and they didn't handle it well either, and it was kind of bothersome, especially because you're telling us, yeah, here's this product for you. By the way, we're going to stop supporting it in 3 years. Type thing.
Exactly, and then also, with staying on with Microsoft is the other part of Microsoft that kind of bothers me. It also bothers me with Steam to an extent is that the sharing system seems to be a little weird. Just because I think the sharing system that Steam has is okay, but it's not what you should be doing. Period. Like, I get it that if you share your game with somebody, because they can't afford it, at that point when you want to play the game, it will basically say, this person wants to play the game, and you have 5 minutes to finish what you're doing. That's okay for the moment. Yeah. But eventually I would love to see a concept where you both can play under the same license. And here's the part that I have no problem with that people will go, oh, that's going to be horrible, is maybe you get advertised after your play session. Would you like to buy this? Would you like to know when it's on sale? Yeah. Things like that.
Would you like to add it to your wish list?
Exactly. And that I don't see a major problem with if they can do it that way. Xbox, I think, should be able to do this too. I just don't think they're interested in doing it. I think they want to run off of every game having a product key, and that's just going to be the way it is. Yeah. That's Microsoft. Sony bringing more peripherals into the mix, when in reality what we're interested in with Sony is the games. We want to see the games. They came to E3 with such a huge reception of games. We had The Order, we had I think it was called The Warlock, we had a bunch of third-party support announced for PS4, and I think that's really what everybody is interested in. Not that, you're going to have this VR headset you can play with, or that you're going to have total Twitch integration.
Actually, I think the Twitch integration should go without saying. I almost feel like that should start becoming an industry standard for these systems, because that is the biggest.
Here's the funny part: it's becoming the standard, but not like it's doing okay with PS4, but obviously Microsoft doesn't do it. Nintendo doesn't do it. Who was I hearing before that actually does full Twitch integration? I think it might have been Steam.
I think Steam's trying to get into that.
Steam, and then they were even talking about Rift having not Rift. One of the mobile hubs that you can go and get games. I think they were going to do that kind of an integration. Yeah. Just so that people could see you play Flappy Bird for as long as you wanted. That's how silly that has gone.
Yeah.
But Nintendo and Microsoft haven't jumped on the bandwagon. And I'm going to be honest. I don't ever see Nintendo jumping on that bandwagon, especially given their reputation with YouTube.
I mean, just the problem they had with Evo last year.
Yes.
Trying to get Melee on there.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, just with the and I can't the name of the system is not, or I've forgotten the name of the system, but what came out last year that has basically just kind of crippled a lot of YouTube users, especially with Nintendo games, because if they have a Nintendo game on their list, they are not getting paid via the ads, period. Mm-hmm. And they'll protest it for the 30 days, and then Nintendo will just refresh the whole thing. So those are Sony and Microsoft. Nintendo, I think, is kind of in the bigger problem here, because yes, they took some measures to get some more money coming into third-party developers. We haven't seen that they're talking to them.
No, I mean, and you have titles that are either dropping from the system completely, or they're just deciding not to publish any DLC on it.
Yes.
So I mean, support is slowly but surely dying on the Wii U.
Truth be told, the only DLC that I have seen come out on the Wii U has been for Sonic Lost World, and it's been they added a Yoshi's Island level.
Yes.
And then they just they're going to add a Legend of Zelda level.
I think that was actually released today.
Yeah, so you can have Sonic in green tights kind of thing.
So why not?
Because why not? We're going to recreate Sonic in the Black Knight with a Master Sword. And that's all I've seen as far as DLC. I might be wrong about that, but that's all I've seen. What I would really like to see from Nintendo is, we're going to do... actually, that and the DLC Pokemon that came out for X and Y.
Yeah.
So you had those. But we haven't seen, we're going to add this many levels to 3D World that are dedications to other games.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. They did a Mario Kart level, do an F-Zero level.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Or a Star Fox level.
I'm just waiting for a Mario Kart with the same character roster as Smash Brothers. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm waiting for.
So, the bottom line of this discussion, does this make us at all excited for E3 this year? Or does it make us just not want to see the slaughter happen?
I'm actually not that excited for E3. Probably, as a result of all these people leaving and all these things happening, I'm not really all that excited for E3 as I usually am.
Yeah.
What I am excited to see, though, is what's going to happen on the indie bandwagon. Because you have all these people leaving, creating their own companies, starting their own games. Mm-hmm. So as far as, kind of the big companies, the big three and their publisher, whatever they're publishing, I'm a little excited, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see, the progress that comes from Mighty Number 9, to see what Koji Igarashi comes out with, and just all these other things. So
am I. And especially one of the things I love about this concept is we've had a lot of indie developers get a lot of fame.
Yeah.
And they're doing big development like Way Forward Studios, Double Helix. But they have not forgotten those roots. And so they do have indie divisions still. I love that concept. They have indie divisions still. So at that point, they can still do their own indie games, which could develop their own properties. Mm-hmm. And, despite the controversy around the Flappy Bird guy...
Yeah.
I think he brought that back, didn't he?
I think he's bringing it back.
He's bringing it back. So at that point, I think indie is going to be really strong this year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be where a lot of these companies need to focus. Nintendo needs to jump on the indie bandwagon. Sony already has to some extent. And I think Xbox needs to as well. But Xbox is having that weird problem where they want to control it all.
Yeah.
And obviously indie developers don't want to do that. Jonathan Blow isn't going to do anything for Xbox One with The Witness. It's going straight to PS4.
Yeah.
So
and you have people like who's the guy that did that? Heavy Legend? No, Metal Legend.
Brutal Legend.
Brutal Legend. What was his name? It's
Tim Schafer.
Tim Schafer, yeah. I mean, his company, everything still feels like a really polished indie game, and I think even he's announced a second Brutal Legend to come out.
Yeah, no, he's announced interest in it. Right now, his main focus is to finish Broken Age, the Kickstarter-inspired game. And then after that, I've heard actually a couple of things from him. He would like to do more with Telltale. He'd like to do another Brutal Legend game, because Jack Black is also interested in coming back for that.
I just want to see another Psychonauts.
But I would love to see that. I actually have never played the first Psychonauts. I need to go dig that out on Steam at some point. I'd also like to see a return from Ron Gilbert, who does a lot of work with Schafer. Yeah. And see what he can do with, say, another... is Cave Schafer's? I think the Cave was Tim Schafer's. Who was Ron Gilbert's? Deathspank. Yeah. I'd love to see what he could do with his stuff, or even better, Disney is never going to do anything with those LucasArts properties, and they're probably not going to fight you on them. So why not just bring them back?
Right.
Do HD remakes.
The other guy I'm actually really who's been in the dark for such a long time is the guy that did the Oddworld games.
Oh yes.
I have not seen anything in a long time, and I remember just having a blast with
he's
with a stranger.
He's doing a remake of Oddworld.
Is he doing a remake? He's
doing an HD remake of Oddworld.
I thought he was just working on the next one. It was just taking him forever.
Yeah, it's going to be like he's working on the next Oddworld, but it's supposedly a remake of the first game. It's basically everything he wanted to do with it now that the technology's kind of caught up.
Oh, okay.
So,
cool.
All right. Well, we actually need to take a break, and the Tech Hour is done for today, so we hope you all have enjoyed. Coming up next on the Entertainment Hour, we've got a few things to talk about, including what Aldo has just brought to my attention. We really have to talk about Michael Bay today.
Maybe.
Explosions. Megan Fox. We'll probably be discussing the recently released Ninja Turtles trailer that just came out.
Exploding Megan Fox.
Oh, man, that would be totally awesome. And then we also do have a couple of other stories. First of all, the Lego movie directors have shown interest in taking Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
We also have Chris Evans basically saying after Captain America is done, he's going into directing because he doesn't like being the action star anymore, probably with all the constantly eating of the egg whites and all that.
Yeah.
And then also, we had to bring this up. I know it's a week old, but man, it sparked some controversy online, and that was the trailer for the new 3D Peanuts movie.
I didn't see this. I need to see it.
Yes, there is a new Peanuts movie coming out. It's totally CG. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we return for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.
I aim to misbehave.
If you test me, you will fail.
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later.
Okay, look, we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. But I think we can put our differences behind us.
You thought this was over? But we've only just begun to geek out. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News. Wow, we're a little thrown off. I apologize. We're trying to get intros working, and for some reason, it's just not working for us. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, boys and girls. And man, do we have a few things to talk about this week. Where gaming news has not really been there, entertainment news has been all over the place.
All over.
So I am being joined by Aldo Gomez of The Globe, and we will be discussing quite a bit. So just to kind of give people an overview, we're going to be talking about the LEGO movie directors wanting Ghostbusters 3. They want to take that on after the Harold Ramis news. They understand Dan Aykroyd doesn't want to do it. They want to do it. So that's going to be awesome. I think that's going to be, or that might be awesome. That has the potential for awesomeness, I'm going to say. We also have Chris Evans. He's basically said that after Captain America is done, he's done his whole commitment to the Avengers and all that he does not want to act anymore. He wants to step aside and actually work on his directing career fairly interesting. I actually have not heard this, that Chris Evans wanted to do that.
Me neither.
And then also, this is, like I said before, this is a week-old news. But we will discuss it a little bit in the fact that there is now a 3D Peanuts movie coming out in 2015. That has sparked a lot of controversy as to whether or not this sacred franchise should be touched. And I know that the Schultz estate has been fighting over this for years. So, and that was just for a series. I think I'm trying to think. It was either Disney or Cartoon Network that wanted to do a series based off of the Peanuts that was current. And they've been fighting the Schultz estate for forever, and now we're getting a movie. So that's the most interesting thing for me. We'll get into a discussion on that. Plus, we'll be being joined a little bit later by Stephen Romney with his latest movie review. I can't wait to hear what he's been watching recently. And then we'll probably just go from there. So in the meantime, let's discuss this new revelation with Ghostbusters 3. Because apparently Dan Aykroyd couldn't get the job done. This guy could. So yeah, the directors of the Lego movie wanted to actually take on the project of doing, or they showed their interest in taking on Ghostbusters 3. They don't really state, at least in the articles that I have read, that their main interest was because Harold Ramis died, or because Dan Aykroyd doesn't want to do it anymore. They just wanted a new project to take on. And since they just bounced off of the Lego movie, they thought that would be perfect for what they want to do. Probably also so they can work things out for maybe a Lego Ghostbusters game or something like that. So Aldo, what's your take on this?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, and it's a topic I always talk about with people who love the Ghostbusters movies. You know, who, if in the off chance that, you know, somebody else was able to take the movie, who would you like to see take it? My favorite response is always Quentin Tarantino, but we'll know that will never happen.
Ghostbusters 3 by Quentin Tarantino. Ooh, that'd be a creepy movie.
Right. Say ectoplasm one more time, mother.
And at that point, you also have to try. Doesn't he have like a Bruce Campbell thing going on with? I can't remember his name, but he's done like From Dusk Till Dawn and Jose. I can't remember his name, but he's like. I'm gonna have to think about that. It's not Cheech Marin. It's not. Danny
Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have like an active thing going on with Danny Trejo?
No, I think it's Robert Rodriguez that does.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, no. But I mean, it kind of caught me off left field that they would want to pick it up. But at the same time, it's really such a great mix. Lego movie was great. It was fantastic.
I was actually gonna ask you if you had actually seen the Lego movie.
I finally got a chance to, and I gotta say I enjoyed it a lot. I actually liked Batman a lot more than I would. I'm kind of on the on the Batman hate wagon because I didn't.
Why do you hate Batman?
I don't know. I'm just one of those people that says enough is enough, and we have too much Batman, and that's I'm still of that opinion. But
the mainstream is way too saturated in Batman. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But I liked him a lot. I just liked all the little cameos appearances, and it was just such a great movie. And like at the end of the whole thing, I was like, yay! Yay! Why was this not nominated?
This is so great! Yay! No, that's actually one of my questions was why was the Lego, if the Lego movie does not get like some kind of Oscar nomination next year, then I'm going to be kind of pissed
exactly. For best animated feature, at least a nod or something.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, but I mean, I feel good with them taking it. I do feel like the movies would maybe take a little bit more of a family-friendly approach, maybe.
Mm-hmm. The first question that I have for it is, how do you do it? Because obviously we were discussing this when Harold Ramis passed away.
Yeah.
Without Harold, it's going to be a lot harder to do. And if you construct a new team, that's going to be all well and good. But I'd almost say, do they dare do this CG so that they can have lookalikes, but maybe they don't sound alike?
Kind of. I would actually maybe go that route because did you play the Ghostbusters game?
Yes, I did. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think those character models were great. I think maybe make them a little bit more animated so they step out of the uncanny valley a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it would work.
No. If anything, what you might want to do is I played the PS3 version.
Yeah.
But the Wii version was like a more cartoony kind of take. That may be what you want to do if you're the Lego movie directors. You take a cartoony take with this cast of 4. Obviously, you bring back who you can.
Or who wants to.
And who wants to. Bill Murray. Bill. Harold Ramis is like smacking you on the head right now. You bring back who's interested. So Dan and Ernie would be willing to come back, and then you fill in the gaps as you go along. Yeah. Maybe you can go and I don't know the voice actor who played him in all the spin-off series. Go get that Egon because he sounded pretty close. I don't think it was Harold Ramis that played him. So you can go ahead and do that, but that's probably what I would suggest. I would not suggest going with a new team, at least not until you work things out. So maybe you have people to talk about,
unless that's what this movie sets up. Unless that's what you want to do.
And if it sets that up, but I can't talk today. If it sets that up, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's the real key part, if that is the case. So let's go ahead and get into our second story.
Yes.
The Chris Evans story. So we have just barely found out that Chris Evans does not like being the action star. He'd actually like to start directing instead of acting, and he wants to do that after Captain America is done. So we do have the story up here from IGN, and let's just go ahead and take the quote. By the way, we are being joined by Stephen Romney, so good to see you, Romney.
Woo!
How was your spring break, sir?
Well, pretty uneventful since it was mostly spent working on homework.
No! Yeah, that was kind of me too.
Well, yeah, storyboarding an entire scene takes a lot of work.
Yes, it does indeed. Because we actually kind of did that for our channel as well. But so that's pretty much all you were doing over spring break?
Pretty much.
Did you see any good movies?
Well, the only movie I think I saw that week was Need for Speed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
$8 for Fast and the Furious, the ripoff.
Pretty much for Fast and the Furious starring Aaron Paul, basically.
Pretty much. Okay, so actually, let's backtrack a little bit because you just barely got here, and one of the things we were talking about was the Lego movie directors. Now, I know you didn't like the Lego movie all that much.
I haven't actually seen the Lego movie.
Oh, that's right. So. You haven't seen it. The Lego movie directors have said they want to take on Ghostbusters 3 in light of Harold Ramis' passing. So just give us your quick take on that, Romney. Do you think that's the direction they should go?
Well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, based on what I've heard about the Lego movie, it might not be a bad idea from the studio standpoint, but I guess it just really depends on... Honestly, I'm not really sure what to think about it because, I mean, I know this is probably going to shock a lot of people, but I haven't actually seen much of the original Ghostbusters movies, so...
Okay. Yeah, they're probably past your time.
Yeah, I was... Again, the only thing really Ghostbusters related I really remember was the cartoon done by... I think the name was like Kevin Kline. He was like kind of a major animation.
Oh, so you saw Extreme Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's the only real nostalgia attached to it, but I don't know. From a studio standpoint, they probably would want to snatch up those directors, given how well the Lego movie did and how well received it was by the public.
Sure.
That they probably would want to kind of try to raise people's level of confidence, especially in the wake of Harold Ramis' passing, because like, oh, with him gone, how are they going to make this movie good? And I'm not sure about their particular directing style, but if I were kind of working at the studio, if the contracts hadn't been signed, they would probably be wanting to get them signed in order to try to get some good PR for the project.
Sure. And it may not be the best thing. I mean, the discussion that me and Aldo were having was maybe it wouldn't be the best thing to do live action. Maybe you kind of go into a kookier CG style and make that work, and you bring in the actors who are interested. Obviously, Bill Murray might not be that guy, but you can bring in Dan Aykroyd. He's interested.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson are basically the ones we got left.
Yes, pretty much, because Harold would do it, but Bill wants more money. So that's pretty much, I think, our thoughts on the matter, because we don't really know a whole lot. Let's go ahead and get into this current story. So as you kind of heard when you were walking in, Chris Evans apparently wants to direct. He's kind of sick and tired of being the action star.
Yeah, not so much even just the action star, but more or less acting, because I remember reading the article. He said that any acting he'd be doing in the future would just be contract stuff. He wouldn't necessarily be acting for any of himself or trying to boost his credibility in that regard. And
which was interesting to me, because Chris Evans, I think he's a fairly good actor when you put him in the right role. And for example, Captain America is one of those. I think he's probably the best person they could have picked out of that. And I was one of the naysayers that said, no, you don't look like Steven Rogers. To actually quote the article, he's actually saying, if I'm acting at all, it's going to be under a Marvel contract or I'm going to be directing. I can't see myself pursuing activity or acting strictly outside of what I'm contractually obligated to do. So that just basically means if it's not Marvel, he's not acting. He wants to take on directing.
Yeah, because he's on for I think 3 more movies after this because he signed a 6-picture deal.
Yes, because he's got Avengers 2, and I think they've got Cap 3 at this point. I'm trying to think what the third one is.
Well, probably Avengers 3.
Probably Avengers 3, yeah.
Or a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie.
Oh, that'd be...
Given that I saw Winter Soldier last night, that's kind of what we got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Winter Soldier is going to be, because it's very S.H.I.E.L.D. oriented. So that was an interesting concept for me. Aldo, what is your take on it? Do you like him as Captain America? Do you think this is a good move?
I like him as Captain America, but it's one of those things where I've always kind of lived with the idea that superheroes are the next James Bond type characters, where you could say a generation have a certain actor be that character, and then they'll move on and somebody else will take over it. I mean, as much as I love Hugh Jackman, he can't keep that up forever.
Even though he's been signed for Wolverine 3 at this point.
Right.
And actually owns partial film rights to the character personally, not just the company. He actually bought the rights.
But I actually heard that he was talking to Marvel. He wanted to own some of the comic rights too.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get that.
But even he said, he's not going to do the part forever. I think he said he's going to finish up that Wolverine movie. I think Age of Apocalypse. And the X-Force movie, and I think he said after that he's done. Just 3 more movies is nothing.
Yeah, it's only 3 more movies. You're just going to get rid for 3 more movies. And I mean, he's not the first one that's been having this problem. I mean, we've been hearing about this from Robert Downey Jr. for forever, is that he's not going to play Iron Man forever. I have no problem with this. I think he did a great job, but I wouldn't mind a reboot. In 5 years.
I'm not even. You don't even need to do a total reboot, which everybody thinks you do. But I think that's one of the great things about comics is that there's so many different stories. You don't have to reboot. You can just pick up a new actor.
Yeah, you can just do a side story
and do a new story.
And you wouldn't necessarily need to reboot and kind of start from the beginning. But to kind of argue that argument, it's not so much that they would need to reboot, but you can't just replace just one and then keep all the others. It's kind of a case of if you're going to have a changing of the guard of the actors playing the heroes, then it's got to kind of change all of them. That way everyone's kind of on the same page, because you'll also notice the difference in dynamic between different actors. If you suddenly had a different actor playing Captain America having to act opposite Scarlett Johansson, you've got kind of the chemistry that's already been established between Chris Evans.
But we're not going to have that because she's pregnant. How dare she be pregnant?
Well, yeah, but it's a common acting thing, and I'm trying to think of an example of where that was. I think it was kind of even somewhat easily observed with Iron Man 2, where they replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle, and things were kind of different. In my opinion, slightly better, because Don Cheadle, you can take him a little bit more seriously than Terrence Howard, especially after seeing Sabotage.
Yeah. All right, so we actually do need to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to be discussing the two other stories of the week. First of all, we're going to be discussing the controversy of the new. And yes, I know it's a week old, guys, but bear with me. The controversy of the new 3D Peanuts movie that is going to be coming out in 2015. And we just barely found out today that we have a trailer where we're going to be talking about Michael Bay today. We just barely got a trailer for the new Ninja Turtles. So we will be watching that in the break. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. So, I'm a little, I don't know what to think. In all honesty, I really don't. So let's go ahead and get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so literally today, guys, the trailer dropped for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Michael Bay. And I don't know where I'm sitting with it.
Yeah, I mean, it had some things I liked, some things I didn't like. One thing I liked, you could tell they had kind of the subtle nods to comedy that...
Yes.
Because I thought they were going to be going too dark with the whole Ninja Turtles thing, so at least it's nice to see that they're having some subtle humor thing without going kind of over the top like they did with some of the... trying to think of an example, but there have been times in the past with iterations of TMNT where they've had they try to go too far into the comedy to the point that it fails. So it's nice to see a little.
Or they go too far into the serious. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's nice to see that they're kind of striking a nice touch. The one thing I don't like though, you can tell they're almost kind of trying to copy Amazing Spider-Man with the whole we were trying to create heroes.
Yeah,
I was laughing at that. We were trying to create heroes, and then they subtly kind of go into a silhouette of Shredder. And it's you're playing Shredder.
The thing that bugged me the most was. And out of the whole thing, this is actually my only real gripe with it, is the fact that apparently April O'Neil is no longer just a journalist. I don't think she's even a journalist at all. It was her father that was helping create these turtles.
Yeah.
Is that really the story that they're going with? I hadn't heard that.
Said.
That's what the trailer said.
That's what your father and I were trying to create. Heroes.
Even more of a ripoff of the Amazing Spider-Man, basically.
Are people getting my opinion on this? Look, I thought it was a nice little nod in the trailer that we got to see a nice raincoat on April, just because, yellow jumpsuit back in the day. But I don't know if I like that concept. That and the turtle. Let's just talk about the turtles really quick.
Did you not like the turtle design?
The turtle design is interesting, but some parts of it kind of bug me. Especially since, first of all, we didn't get to see a design for Rafferdon, at least from what I can tell.
Well, yeah, so far I think there were you saw Donatello for a split second in that clip when they're on the mountain, but I think the main ones they mainly showed were Mikey and Leonardo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the whole partial wood samurai armor aspect for Leo, I don't know if I like it. It seems a little pushing it. For them.
That you can still see kind of, even though they changed it where they're no longer aliens, you could still see kind of that facet of their design, influence in their design.
They did have a weird, freaky face, especially at the end of the trailer when
Mikey takes off.
Yeah, when Mikey takes off the mask.
Which that part actually, the first time I saw the trailer, that part actually had me just kind of guffawing at just how kind of funny that scene was.
I wouldn't mind that part because, in the original series, they did actually do a couple of good jokes where their headbands were off and nobody could tell them apart. Even though, the viewer could, because, the different shades of green.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if they did that, just to have that clever little nod.
I doubt that Michael Bay's going to do it, because I don't think he reads comics or reads anything.
And of course, the comics, a lot of people tend to get mixed up as to which is the true version of the Turtles, because, a lot of people attach their nostalgia to the 80s series.
Yes.
Then there's the comics, which were basically an inherent parody of the Daredevil mythos. That was the initial idea.
No, actually Ronin, the Ronin series by Frank Miller, I believe.
Well, this is why concept...
Well, yeah, but even the original, black and white comics, it was a parody of the noir comics. That was the initial approach by Eastman and Laird.
But at this point, that's why, you do efforts like Turtles Forever, where you bring all of the continuities together just to see how they would bounce off of each other. In fact, didn't the Nickelodeon series do that? They just barely brought in the 80s Turtles or whatever?
That's what I heard, but I haven't been watching the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, one of the things I was talking about was in the most recent reboot of the Turtles comics, they all start out with red bands. And I think they do it because Raphael has gone, and so they're all wearing the red bands. And then when they get Raphael, he's the only one to keep the red bands, and everybody gets their own color. Kind of thing.
And that I don't mind. And I agree with you, Ram. I think it was you, Rami, that said that they are keeping the alien look, so to speak, that they had. Which it also looks a little weird. The shells almost look like a hunch for them.
Yeah.
And guys, I'm basing a lot of judgments based off of the trailer.
Yeah.
We haven't seen this movie yet, so we don't know if it's going to be good or not.
It's only the first trailer. There's going to be more trailers as we get closer to the release date.
And obviously, I do have a couple of apprehensions, obviously, because it's Michael Bay. And,
I'm on that same boat as you.
And I'm one of those guys where Transformers raped... No, I'm not really. I'm not really the guy who's like, Transformers raped my childhood. I'm not. I think, in all honesty, he did what he could do with it, but it wasn't enough. And so, hence why I'm not excited for movies like Age of Extinction. That's the Turtles trailers, everybody. Let's get into the peanuts, because this trailer, I kid you not, I didn't even think I would see such trolling comments from 50 or 60-year-olds, but I did online. I did. I literally saw a comment. They actually said, in their signature, this person age 60.
Wow.
And he was literally saying something along the lines of, "You've raped my childhood, and here's why." Okay, you've seen the trailer, Romney. Mm-hmm. You just barely saw the trailer,
yes.
Aldo. Your thoughts?
Personally, at first I was kind of wary at first because I wasn't quite sure how to feel about it.
Yeah.
But given kind of both what I've studied about animation here at the college and just kind of how much the technology has kind of progressed, I'm going to remain kind of fairly optimistic. I mean, the voices and the overall atmosphere and kind of nature of the Peanuts cartoons is still shown in that trailer. It's not like they're trying to... It's not like they're kind of trying to do what they did with Archie Comics a while back, where they had like a live-action film that was like a time skip in the future where they're all adults or anything. And so at least kind of the spirit of it is there. You can still kind of see that it's coming from a place of passion, from a place of actual adoration of the cartoons and the comics.
Okay, and before we get all those comments, I actually forgot to ask this concept. What is you guys' history with the Peanuts? Peanuts came out probably before your time. The Peanuts cartoons that I know as a kid that were like all the message shows and things like that. Have you guys seen those at all?
Mine was mainly the holiday specials and whatever VHS, because I first watched the holiday specials when they were showed on TV, and then as a kid, my mom would take me and my siblings to the library every Friday, and so we would kind of scour through the different tapes, and then that's when I stumbled upon the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show, and so I watched a lot of the tapes of that, and even some of kind of the history ones that they would show in class, like the ones about the Wright brothers and stuff like that. And so I've
or the whole World War II dedication kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched like any of like the main feature films, like the whole summer camp one or anything. I've mainly watched mostly the specials and the various shorts that they've made, as well as reading some of the strips that have been collected based on what was literally sitting on the shelf at a library at my elementary school.
Okay, and then Aldo, what's your history with the Peanuts, and then what's your thoughts on the trailer?
I actually have not seen almost any of the animation. I've seen like a little bit.
So not even the Christmas special or the Halloween special.
I've seen the Great Pumpkin one.
It's a Great Pumpkin, Halloween. Charlie Brown.
Yeah, I've seen that. But no, most of my history with the Peanuts actually comes from the comics. I had a friend who grew up with them, and he collected, the big collected books, the
legacy books.
Yeah, from like 1960 to 1962 or whatever, and I read those, so I mean, I really enjoyed that. So as far as the animation, I don't have any nostalgia connected to it. The trailer though, fantastic. At least I think it's fantastic. It really keeps that humor. It really keeps it, kind of charming type thing, especially with Snoopy. And the animation that they're using for it, even though it's CGI, it still has that rough, almost stop motion looking effect that makes it feel like the older animation.
Yeah,
that and the voice work also definitely caters to that, because the voiceover would have been really easy to screw up. They're like, oh, let's cast some Flavor of the Month talent as Charlie Brown.
Right. It actually reminded me, and I hope it's the same people, but it reminded me of the people they're using for the Esurance commercials.
Yeah, actually that and the MetLife commercials.
Oh yeah, MetLife.
Came to my mind.
Yeah.
So my history with the Peanuts is obviously I'm the old fart here, and I watched all the animated shows. I watched all the holiday specials. I remember when the Disney Channel used to air the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show, and I loved it. Every second of it. I used to read the Peanuts comic strips. It's actually kind of funny because my mother-in-law is a diehard Peanuts collector. She's got like this whole glass case full of Peanuts stuff. So, and strangely enough, she hasn't seen the trailer yet. She's afraid. She's afraid because she's like, I don't know. My viewpoint on the trailer is it is a loving dedication to what came before. And here's the thing. I remember this movie being talked about and seeing the Schultz estate just going nuts about, you got to do this or you got to do it right or don't do it at all. Because I remember it was either Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. They wanted to make a new series, and Schultz estate just told them, no, we're not going to let you do it. And in this movie, I remember hearing stuff on this where it was going to be a live action movie. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing stuff where it was going to be, they were going to find a way to do it all classically animated. And that failed because it was just going to be way too much of a budget. They were going to just do a redesign completely in CG, which everybody frowned upon. And then they came to this. And this is, I think, the direction they should go. This is just the cartoon in a 3D aspect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's perfect for me, especially since I have legitimate cause to be worried. I've seen Cartoon Network fail with Garfield. I've seen Disney fail with For Better or For Worse. There was
Over the Hedge as well, which was kind of
Over the Hedge. UPN, in my opinion, failed with Dilbert. A lot of these comic strips have not had good renditions when it came to movie, TV, or film or TV.
Yeah, so far I think the only one that was actually kind of decent out of all of them was like the Garfields and Friends show, mostly because they didn't try to have one Garfield story for the whole 20 minutes.
Yeah.
just break it up.
That's the only decent thing that ever came out of it. Like, if you've seen the new CG, I came upon it in passing when I was getting up in the morning, the new CG series on Cartoon Network for Garfield. It's horrible, in my opinion. It's bad. I don't know why. I can't even remember the name right off the top of my head. It's like Jim something.
Jim Davis.
Jim Davis. I don't know why he okayed that. But the bottom line is, I just can't believe the level of hate. I get that this is a beloved thing for some people, but guys, it looked okay. It's at least hopeful, and we have 2 years.
One of the things that surprised me is that not even what's his name? Something Sherman, Peabody and Sherman got
that got no hate.
That got no hate. And I think that franchise is just as old, if not older.
Well, yeah, like the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, which is where the Peabody and Sherman comes from. I guess that's kind of the same sort of case, because much like the Garfield series we were talking about, with Peabody and Sherman, the nostalgia isn't as strong because it was a small segment of a much larger show.
Yes.
Even though apparently, and although I didn't see it at the screening of Peabody and Sherman, there was supposed to be a Rocky and Bullwinkle short that plays before the main feature, because they're trying to bring that franchise back.
There was multiple talk. They were also talking either a Rocky and Bullwinkle short or doing a Underdog short. Yeah. But both of which were kind of frowned upon because both of which's movies did not do well.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing to me because I was like a big Underdog fan at the time.
I was particularly fond of the Rocky and Bullwinkle movies. I didn't think they were that bad.
I didn't think they were horrible, but I didn't think they were like the best rendition that could possibly come out of it.
I think one of their
the same thing could be said of George of the Jungle or Dudley Do-Right, you know?
Yeah, and I think another example that actually would go well with this Peanuts is kind of the situation that was with the Dr. Seuss stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were very hesitant to come out with movies, and then they come out with the Jim Carrey live-action Grinch movie.
Yes,
and at that point they were like, no more movies.
Well, yeah, then
they did the
Jim Carrey Horton Hears a Who film, which was received slightly better, but then they announced it was kind of a interesting little thing. Because,
well, they did the Grinch, and then they did the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat, which failed,
and that was the straw that pretty much broke the back for Ted Geisel's widow, which then she gave it over to. I think it was Fox Animation that did the Horton Hears a Who.
Horton Hears a Who, and then the
Blue
Lorax.
Sky Blue Sky was the one that did the Lorax. That's a different studio. Basically, they picked it up, and because of how the Lorax turned out, she said, okay, I like this studio. I like their approach.
Yeah.
They get the rights.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those things where we're seeing that, it kind of takes the right animation studio, the right people to who really want to do it justice and not just hire a big name and make money, because as far as I remember, I think Zac Efron was the only real notable voice in the Lorax.
Danny DeVito.
Well,
Danny DeVito.
Zac Efron, Danny DeVito. I think they had Betty White was another notable voice, but
yes.
there were a few others.
Yeah, so I mean they weren't relying so much on star power as they were on the actual property. Kind of opposite of what happened with The Cat in the Hat and The Grinch, where they were going like, look who we got. We got Jim Carrey. We got Mike Myers. We got these guys.
Yeah.
So and I think that's kind of what they're doing, because if you notice in that trailer, there's no names apart from Peanuts and the Schultz by Schultz.
Yeah, exactly.
That, and it's also just a case of the whole idea of a movie star being a draw. That isn't really the case anymore. You can't really bring people into theaters based on what a certain actor is doing. Mm-hmm. Like, the only actors that can really do that nowadays are basically Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks. Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks, and Morgan Freeman are like the only
draw money. Yeah,
yeah. The real stars.
Samuel
nowadays.
L. Jackson, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
even then, it depends on the right movie.
The real stars nowadays really are the directors.
Really,
the directors and the franchise properties they're based on.
Because that's the first thing I look at whenever I see a new movie. I'm like, who is directing it?
Yeah. Because especially after you see, I think Ryan Reynolds is an excellent example. I no longer judge Ryan Reynolds by what movie he's in. I judge him by what director used him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's the same. That's something I even came to a realization during the early days of being a film critic. And it was actually the first thing I noticed strongly with Snow White and the Huntsman. A lot of people gave Kristen Stewart a lot of flack, but it's kind of the same case where it wasn't necessarily her fault, but probably the director, because the scenes where she was given something to do, she was good. But the scenes where she was probably just told, stand there and look pretty, they weren't that strong.
Exactly.
Of course, it probably didn't help that Kristen Stewart was having an affair with said director. So.
Oh, yeah. So, actually, we are overdue for a break. So we're going to go ahead and take that really quick, and then we will get into more discussion topics. I would actually like to see what you're reviewing and what you thought of Fast and Furious 9 or whatever it was. But also to see if you got anything else upcoming. And then the discussion topic, I think, that just has kind of come up that we'll be talking about is just all the retro stuff that's been coming out and all the stuff that we can look forward to. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as more Geek News and reviews and opinions. I can't talk. Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. Now, Aldo has been doing some digging in the break, and he actually did find some information on the Peanuts movie that will hopefully alleviate some of the problems that people have.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Do you want me to say?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, bring it up.
Okay, so we found out that the director is Steve Martino, who is known for, I don't have that page up anymore.
He was known for Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah, he co-directed Horton Hears a Who and Ice Age Continental Drift.
Okay.
Both two films that I personally enjoyed quite a bit.
And they did decently well at the box office.
Yeah,
At least Horton Hears a Who did.
Yeah, and then the two other pieces of news. I remember seeing this a lot in forums of, oh no, Snoopy's going to have a voice now. Snoopy's going to be voiced by Snoop Dogg. What the irony? They have actually announced that they are going to take the TV show audio of Snoopy and Woodstock and air it again as the voices of Snoopy and Woodstock in this new movie.
Using archive recordings, yeah.
That's a great idea.
A great idea, but I can kind of... it's kind of both good and bad, depending... I mean, they probably have really good archive quality, but a lot of people also tend to discount that. There are some voice actors nowadays that probably would be able to do a good job.
Sure.
Yeah, like Frank Welker, for example. He's the voice of Abu, Scooter, Megatron. He'd be able to...
Well, Frank Welker's really made his career off of guttural noises kind of thing. He's done animals and stuff.
Oh, the other guy that does the voice of all the animals in Avatar, The Last Airbender show.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, right, Romney?
Not exactly. The only two voice actors I really know about known for doing voices like that are Frank Welker and Fred Newman.
Yeah.
And Fred Newman, he's mostly done his work on Between the Lines as of late, but, although the archive stuff, I can see kind of why they're doing, kind of trying to cater to the familiarity and stuff, and it's just, I don't know, kind of disappointed that a lot of people think, oh, no one else can do it, even though a lot of voice actors make their career of doubling famous voices, but it's still definitely a better approach than, what they did with Marmaduke.
Bradley Baker, that's the name I was thinking of.
D. Rodney Baker. Okay.
D. Bradley Baker. Oh, and the other piece of news was that we found out the writers are actually Brian and Craig Schultz.
So this tells us how they got around the Schultz estate. Is that they have Schultz's writing it.
Yeah, and some guy named Uliano, and I couldn't find any information.
And at that point, I think you were also the one that brought up that Boom Studios has been doing new Peanuts strips.
No, that was Romney.
Romney did. Where the Boom Studios is doing new Peanut strips, and I think they have Schultz involved with them too. Mm-hmm. So at that point, this is how you got around the Schultz estate. And if you I do know that they've done a few comic strips, and they've kept Charles's, or is it Charles or Chuck Schultz? I can't remember.
It usually is interchangeable. I think, from what I've heard, but most people say Charles.
But they've kept his vision pretty much intact. So at that point, that's somewhat. That makes me feel even better. I like the fact that Snoopy's not going to have a voice. I don't think Snoopy should ever have a voice. I don't,
or at least not a voice that actually says words.
No. If anything, you do what the series did, where it's the voice in his head kind of thing. Woodstock is going to still have the little pip-pips and all that, and he's, when you're talking Snoopy, you have to bring up Woodstock. Woodstock was kind of his little sidekick.
Companion.
So at that point,
foil.
That'll be very interesting. But the discussion that I kind of want to get into with the last little bit of the show is, we're talking Peanuts. We're talking Ninja Turtles. We're talking a bunch of remakes. And Aldo was actually bringing up in the break, there's a bunch of animated movie remakes that are slated. And so it just makes me kind of interested in the fact that it's all the comic strips right now that are getting remade. We're having the Smurfs. We're having eventually we might actually see a Foxtrot remake or something like that. Is that necessarily a good thing? Because we've seen bad iterations.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
But depending on the comic strip, that's the thing. A lot of people think that comics and movies are the natural progression. Some of them might do better as a television show. Like Foxtrot is the kind of strip that would probably do better as a television series. And then there's also even some of the more serious strips. I mean, for example, Boondocks. Boondocks is a comic strip, and it's been doing a lot better as a television series instead of trying to make it as a feature film.
Yeah.
And that was the main problem with that I kind of had with Over the Hedge is that, yeah, I mean, it was kind of expected, and I'm sorry, the door is open in the studio. Let me go close it.
Yeah. So, yeah, but, I mean, we've had some bad iterations here with Garfield got remade on Cartoon Network, and I think we discussed this. It was not a good reiteration. No. Another thing was Disney tried to take on another comic strip for better or for worse. I think it even also... no, that was UPN. UPN actually has 2 under their belt that were bad. They tried to take on the comic strip Dilbert and didn't do well with it. And they also tried to take on Baby Blues. And that didn't work out well for them either.
Yeah, I think another thing a lot of people tend to forget is that a lot of these comic strips, especially in the cases of stuff like Garfield, people think, oh, it's comics, meaning it's for kids. But not really. I mean, especially when you look at the stuff like Luann, Doonesbury, stuff like that. Although at Doonesbury...
Even Tintin.
Yeah, although a Doonesbury cartoon probably would do pretty well if given in the right hands. I mean, it is the first comic strip to win a Pulitzer Prize, so if they gave it kind of the dignity it deserved.
And here's the thing. There's some comic strips you're just never going to see a movie of. I mean, for the example, The Far Side, never going to happen. There's just not enough of a continuity there.
They have made animated shorts based on The Far Side comics, but that's about as far as you're going to get.
But you're not going to see like a full 3-hour or 2-3-hour feature-length movie.
Unless it's a biography of Gary Larson. Like, if it was kind of like the whole prehistory of The Far Side sort of storyline about Gary Larson kind of done in the same style, that would work.
But also in this day and age, you also won't see a lot more of the family-friendly strips. You won't see... we're getting a Popeye remake. That makes sense.
Well, and there's rumors of a movie based on Family Circus that have kind of sprung around.
I was actually wondering about that because I don't know if Family Circus would actually work well in this day and age.
Yeah.
It's way too way too old fashioned in some cases. Maybe they modernize it. I don't know about it.
Maybe it's kind of hard to tell. I'm surprised the comic strip is still going unless they're just doing rerun syndication like they do with the Peanuts comics.
Yeah, and then the other one that I brought up was Foxtrot. I just don't see how you can do a series or a movie based off of that because it's really just all geek humor. Yeah. You could probably do a series off of it, but it would be as successful as Dilbert.
The other one I would love to see an animated movie kind of in the same kind of heart as the Peanuts movie. If it's good, assuming it comes out and it's good, would actually be Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, but that is probably never going to happen.
Probably.
Because
I've heard that estate's even stricter than Schultz.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy is is it Watterson or... Yeah, I think it's Watterson. Yeah, he's such a recluse. I mean, that's why like him giving a lecture at like a college makes like huge headline news. But yeah, people have approached him. Even Spielberg approached him wanting to make a Calvin and Hobbes movie.
No, every director has approached him at some point, didn't they? Because it's been Spielberg. I've even heard James Cameron came to him.
Tarantino.
I'll bet Tarantino came to him. I'll bet Joss Whedon went to him.
Well, yeah, it's pretty much
and he's very protective of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the comic equivalent of Catcher in the Rye. Just one of those things that no matter how much studios try, it will probably never be made into a movie.
Although I do kind of agree with the potential, though, Aldo.
Yeah.
I think if Peanuts does well, then you could do Calvin and Hobbes. You have the potential to do that as long as you put it in the right hands.
Yeah.
But the problem that you have there is that you have Bill Watterson to work with, and he's not. At least in my indication, you're probably not going to get him to agree to it.
Yeah, not while he's alive, and even then, after his death, there's probably some sort of thing he would probably say in his will. Saying that, But
the part that actually just barely came to me, and I'd actually like to bring it to you guys, is, we're talking about a lot of old school comics. Comic strips like Peanuts, you brought up Luann, I brought up Baby Blues, and things like that. Is there actually going to be a time, since web comics are kind of a big thing, where we're going to see them being done like 20 or 30 years from now? Are we going to see Penny Arcade being done in this way? I don't know if you can.
Well, there's kind of a rule of thumb that would explain why there's this huge resurgence of like nostalgic stuff, and it's kind of what's unofficially deemed the 40-year rule, where basically one decade will become immediately fascinated with the decade or stuff from the decade 40 years prior. I mean, I think it's the 30-year rule, because if you look at the 70s, one of the biggest films from the 70s was Grease, which was set in the 50s. You also had Happy Days. And it's kind of the same course, kind of trying to cater that sort of sense of nostalgia.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're seeing, is that now we're kind of moved beyond people being nostalgic for the 50s and kind of being nostalgic for things kind of in the past. And that's kind of part of the reason, is most people trying to kind of cater to the now adult fans of those franchises and trying to bring them in.
So you're saying I should expect an Adventure Time movie in about 30 years?
Probably.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. I mean,
hey, that's something to consider. I mean, Adventure Time is kind of a cult classic right now. It's blowing Cartoon Network's numbers out of the water, kind of thing.
And the comic does amazingly well as well, because it does have a comic book series too.
So that's one of those things that we can actually consider. I do remember at one point that some states actually aired a Simpsons comic, and that did fairly well. Another inspiration that I can think of, since I'm a gamer, is Sam and Max was originally a comic, then Steve Purcell and Tim Schafer brought it to life. Yep. So at that point, I agree with you, Romney. I think that it's just going to be if we have an interest at that given time, but yes, we do have the potential maybe later on to see PvP the comic, or
I think Penny Arcade would probably be the first one they would do.
Yeah.
Like a few, because I mean, there are a lot of like the earlier webcomics that people may claim to be kind of the forerunners, like Mega Tokyo, but they
Apple Geeks.
I would not mind Mega Tokyo, by the way. That would be
just
awesome.
some of those when you actually look at them nowadays. Like Penny Arcade kind of endured because they put a lot of work into it, but stuff like Mega Tokyo and stuff like that doesn't quite hold up nowadays. Like mostly because of just how the gaming humor has kind of changed over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
I think more likely what we're probably going to see is rather than see some of our favorite webcomics become movies, maybe some exceptions. I do think what we're going to see in maybe 20 years, maybe a consistent rise in video game franchise movies. We're probably...
I would love that. I mean, we were already seeing Sly.
Sly and
and they've already got a director in mind for the Splinter Cell movie, Doug Liman, who was the director of Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
No, I've heard a bunch of video game adaptations coming down the line that aren't Uwe Boll. I mean,
I know, and like Kojima's even been trying to kind of get Metal Gear up and running again. It's just a case of trying to find the right director and trying to decide what approach.
He's gone further than that. He's considering a Snatcher movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of... I don't know, because there already is kind of
Snatcher's his baby. He'll always try and consider that first.
Well, yeah, it's just with Snatcher, there's already was a Snatcher movie. It's called Blade Runner.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, now, Police Knots I can probably see.
Yeah. And then what you were going to say something else.
I was trying to say Psychonauts movie.
But see, here's the thing. I might actually get murdered by all... I have not played Psychonauts.
No,
you're not the only one.
You're not the only one.
And again, a lot of people...
It's on Steam, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to go dig it out.
And, of course, Tim Schafer, his line of games, a lot of people kind of said that they've kind of gone downhill as of late. I mean, the last big one he did was Brutal Legend, which wasn't particularly well received.
It's just that he has an acquired taste. I mean, I've just barely played the Kickstarter game that he did, Broken Age. And I'm not saying it's the greatest thing I've ever played, but it's also incomplete.
Well, yeah.
The only complaint that I would have with him is that he brought in big names like Elijah Wood and Jack Black, and they don't really contribute a whole lot to it.
It's kind of the same case with what's been going on with Suda51 as well, where now Suda51's kind of become too aware of his own brand and is not trying too hard.
Well, like Lollipop Chainsaw has been one of my least favorite Suda games.
See, I've been told that I need to go dig out No More Heroes. It's funny. We're on the entertainment now. We're talking games. That's fine. We're rolling with it. I've been told to play No More Heroes, but everybody tells me if you love those games, avoid Lollipop Chainsaw because it's just not that good.
I would recommend Killer 7 if you wanted a good FPS.
I've been recommended that one too, and then there's another one that he worked on before Killer 7. I think it was called 13 or something like that.
Yeah, 13. I think
because David Duchovny was part of it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I'm actually looking forward to the day when we see that Spyro the Dragon movie, the Crash Bandicoot the movie.
And you've got like Sonic Boom that they're trying to gear up. That actually looks pretty promising.
I have been hearing for years down the pipeline that a CG Mario movie was being considered.
And hopefully the Zelda movie.
Yeah.
That's the franchise that everybody wants.
Yeah, but I think before we get to really any of those, we're probably going to be seeing almost kind of an extension of some of the bad practices that we've got in games with like titles becoming yearly. Because I know they're trying to get Assassin's Creed off the ground and how they made that a yearly franchise now.
And now we are going to the French Revolution. Oh, ho, ho.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And so that's kind of the case of, although, it'll be promising that we'll start getting good game movies, it might also kind of start piling into sort of the bad practices we've seen in both games and comics where things kind of try to cater to be like the movies and then they try to kind of saturate the market as well.
Exactly.
And that's something we'll definitely have to kind of watch out for as consumers because it's ultimately up to us, the people who pay the movie tickets, to decide what ones do well and what ones don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, unfortunately, guys, this discussion is awesome, and we might have to bring it again, but we are out of time. So before we leave, let's just go ahead and Aldo, why don't you go ahead and plug where people can get a hold of you if they have comments or want to take a look at some of the content you do.
You can find me on Twitter at Aldo531, or also on YouTube at Anime Overdub ES. Or even at,
and I've been watching some of that stuff, and oh man, I've been getting into Toradora.
And also, if I remember correctly, it's boardoffline.wordpress.com.
All right, and Romney, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always get a hold of me on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Studio Phantasma, and you can also now find me on moviepilot.com under the username Romney's Reviews.
Very nice.
And be sure to tune into to my channel on Friday for my review of Sabotage and Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I definitely will, because I want to see what you think of that. For people to get a hold of me, you can do this a couple of ways. First of all, we do have a Facebook page coming up, and that's going to be facebook.com/Geek News Reviews and Opinions. And as soon as it is up, I'll send it out through the Twitter. You can also contact me through the Twitter sphere, which is twitter.com/Drak2326. Once again, that's Drak, D-R-A-K, 2326. I also have YouTube channels of my own. I have my own Drak2326 channel, as well as what I do with, if people remember from our last broadcast, Alex, him and me do Drak and Shadow, because he's doing anime reviews on YouTube. I do games. We come together, we play some good games. So those are ways to get a hold of me. You can also, I think I cover. There's so much social networking; it's overblowing my mind. But in the meantime, breathe. But yeah, so we are actually out of time. But thank you guys so much for listening in, and we look forward to seeing you all next week as we come back for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.
You said it this time.
Yay! And now I'm cutting out.